We're going to walk through the bear pen today. I think I've given you, day after day, we look at really general stuff. We'll look at a few general things, but we're going to hone in on the bear pen, and that's just my name for the stocks that I set aside as bearish opportunities. And I'm in almost all of these, and I'll mention the ones I'm not and why not. So let's jump in and head toward that bear pen. First off, we got the spider. And it's pretty clear what the important levels are. Right here is resistance. There's our gap. Took place between Thursday and Friday. Down here is support, this trend line, which is pretty close, and let's just draw it to be clear, which is pretty close to this gap. Like so. We'll put that in green to emphasize the bullish nature of that. And this is so old, we'll just dispatch with that. So this is kind of our range we're working with now. We're in the middle of the range now. Maybe we're waiting for Nvidia, who knows? But we're just hanging out. And should we break this trend line, the next goal, so to speak, would be to break this gap, and this, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but then to break this midline right here. So that trio, trend line, gap, midline, is sort of the three fairy godmothers of Bearland, whereas this resistance up here would be important for the bulls to conquer. I just want to mention Tesla from the get-go because there's a couple of interesting things happening. One, it does show how quickly things can change because you may recall last month they had their We Robot event. It was on 10/10, easy to remember, and it was held after the close of this bar. As you can see, they gapped down the next day. We Robot was considered kind of a dud, and Tesla fell and just kind of hung out there for a couple of weeks afterwards. So it's kind of a blah. Since then, though, it has gone from around 212 as high as 358. So that's more than 50%, I believe. And today it got another boost, because over the weekend it was announced or rumored that the new Trump administration is going to have a framework for full self-driving cars in the US, which is a big deal. And obviously Tesla's the principal beneficiary of that. So Tesla's having a good day. It's burned off, and our old Fibonacci friends, did their job again. That little top line there, the pink line, held things back. So it's just banging between these two fibs like so. But Tesla rallied over 50% in just a few weeks' time, really just like 3 weeks, whereas Uber, which was the beneficiary of the Blase We Robot event, has fallen over 20%, because Uber, after 10/10, was perceived as like, well, they're going to own this market for a few years. Tesla can't get their act together. So in a month's time, real change of fortune there. And just to all the Tesla holders, having a good day today. Nvidia will be the only thing people are talking about on Wednesday afternoon. They were a little bit in the news this weekend because there's chatter about, some of the chips are hotter than we expected, and some of our big customers are having to reconfigure their servers and such. It's all pretty technical stuff, and it had a little bit of a slip to the stock. We're down not even quite 1%. While the NQ is up about 160 points. So a little bit of negativity toward Nvidia based on that news, but really it's all about Wednesday. So just about 50 hours from now, that'll be the big news. SMH in general, this is the semiconductor index, this is up, and really the same notions apply with respect to support and resistance, because resistance here is twofold. One is this gap. Same Thursday, Friday gap I talked about with the spider. And the other one is this trend line, which is broken. It is possible that between now and Thursday morning, this will push toward resistance and reverse hard. That's my hope. Or it could push past both of these. It's crystal clear what needs to happen, though, for either side. Nvidia will drive that resolution. If it stays below the trend line in the gap, especially the gap, we could be set up for a nice tumble away from that. And of course, the superset of all this is the cubes themselves. Cubes are up about 0.8% and have not broken support. In spite of the selling last week, They held above their election gap. They held above their August 5th trend line. So the bulls are still postured for prosperity, for posterity even maybe too, based on the fact they have not broken yet. So all this could be different by Thursday morning. It is possible by Thursday morning that the cube trend line will be broken. SMH will be lower than it was on Friday. And Nvidia, for the first time in years, will actually be having a bad day. So we'll see. All right, let's get into the bear pen. We'll get a little bit of a brisker pace because there's 17 of these things. And as I say, I have positions in almost every one of them. AMD, and I'll just assume I'm in them. Not that you should care that much. I'm just putting my money where my mouth is. I'll only mention those that I'm not in. All the others I have positions in. Those positions are very simple, just long puts that expire no earlier than March. So tons of time on them. So here's AMD. Got a nice reversal top on this and a broken trend line. Very, very pretty chart. ARM Holdings. I'm not in this one. I wish I was. It had a really nice fall Friday. And the perfect setup, and I will get into it if it does this, the perfect setup would be if it rallies back toward that dashed red line. If it rallies back to its gap. That would be a beautiful short setup. As it is now, there's no way I'm going to touch this thing. It's fallen too far away from that. Axon Enterprises. I'm not in this one. I was this morning, but I kind of threw my hands up. I confess, I kind of got bored. I was just kind of hanging out here. This was a big beneficiary of the election, but it's been doing nothing ever since, relatively speaking. So not in that one either. CC, Kmores. You've seen this one almost every day. Gigantic top. And there you go. Cleveland Cliffs. You've also seen this one just about every day. These are some real favorites. So there's CLF. And these are, by and large, these are rallying somewhat today. CrowdStrike. I'm not in this one. This is... the resistance, I would say, would be the top of this shooting star pattern right here from last week. It's kind of intriguing, and the options are pretty decent. This is probably next on the docket in terms of getting into, but nothing in that right now. But it's, as you can see, it's very. If you look at any of the fundamentals, I mean, this is like a PE of almost 500. You know, these are pretty richly valued. Carvana. You're going to think I'm not in any of these because I keep saying I'm not, but this is another one I'm not in. I will mention as an aside, I am in two ETFs with puts, SMH, which we looked at a little bit earlier, and Brazil, EWZ. So of my, what do I have, 15 positions, 2 of them are ETFs, 13 are these equities. But I'm not in Carvana. This has gone up an amazing amount. Some people have made just some brave souls actually managed to get into this thing when it was genuinely cheap and hold on for dear life, and it's worked out well for them. DR Horton, DHI. This is actually a little bit red, even in today's market. That's nice. Completed top pattern that below the everything above that dashed line. Goldman Sachs got into this one, and looking pretty good. We've got a peak way up here, and we've got this is our 5th red bar in a row. Got a nice bearish engulfing pattern, so looking pretty decent. Huntsman, another very big topping pattern, and it's down today. And this is the 5th instance of a nice rounded top on that. Lumen Technologies down nicely, 4%. And this has been a steady Freddy. Look at this. Down, 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 day after day. I like the look of that. Triple M. In the old days, known as Minnesota Mining Manufacturing. It's just 3M. Got a diamond pattern cooking right here. And resistance is right along there. A few more. Nike, another very good performer. Right triangle pattern on this one. Slipping again today, 2.5%. So this has been a long-term hold, one of the bigger positions. Novo Nordisk, also down. This is another lovely item we've seen repeatedly. Head and shoulders on this. That green line represents the target. Closer and closer. definitely going the right way. Not in this one, Occidental. This would be very tempting if it got back up to this red dashed line. Long term, it still looks quite bearish. SMTC, Semtech. You've seen this one a bunch, and it's pushing back against its drop on Friday, and that dashed red line represents the gap. And the last of these, Wingstop, WING. We've got a reversal pattern here, very similar, I think, to what was experienced here. We have been rallying today, undoing most of the drop on Friday, and Friday's peak I consider the tight stop on that one. Okay, that's the bear pen. So over in precious metals land, getting a much needed and very welcome bounce here. GLD up about 2%. The gold front month up about $45. And this channel, look, this is terrific. This is a good example of a roll reversal. This had been a channel, and that top line had been resistance. It changed rolls to support once it broke out of it here. We fell. Look what a nice job it did on Thursday and Friday. It held support. That's its new job, and it did its job in an honorable fashion. And then here's silver, SLV, which tagged resistance, tagged support perfectly to the penny, right down here. This is at 27.5, and the all right, let me correct myself. PSLV tagged to the penny. This one was 3 pennies off. 27.47 was support. Got to 27.50. No further. 3 pennies between friends. That's fine. It did not break support. In fact, it didn't even touch it. And so we're pushing higher today. And silver, whereas gold's up about 2%, SLV's up about 3%. So that's cool. Over in bond land, very well behaved. Look at this. You and I have talked about this red trend line again. Another roll reversal example. Had been resistance, change rolls here, support and support right there. Bang, beautiful hit. So that's holding nicely. And we'll just close it out, bottom of the hour, with IWM. And in this instance, small caps had been going crazy. It fell off really hard last week. So key support here is this gap. It's all going back to that election gap between the 5th and the 6th of November. Holding that gap for the bulls is key.